Cathal Ó Baoill, somebody once complimented Eddie Butcher on his fine abattoir of songs.
Lovely turn.
Cathal Ó Baoill has a simmering cauldron of ballads. Could you tell us how this was amassed?
Well, around about when I was 11, I think it was about that age anyway, around about early in the 1950s, my father started collecting songs with Peter Kennedy around South Armagh down and so on. And all the time, anytime they'd finished with a day's recording, they'd bring this huge big thing about the size of a sofa. It was a ferrograph, it was called, and they'd play back for us the songs that they had collected that day. And it was pure magic. In those days, of course, they hadn't invented television, so a sound coming out of a big box was magic. So all of them, you just automatically learn them because you learned them, you heard them 10 times.
Osmosis, as
Yeah,
they say.
just they poured over you.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Okay. Tunes, they all generally come in a specific key, which you generally don't muck about with, but they just wouldn't sound right if they were transposed. Is there or should there be any such restriction on a song, do you think?
Well, the problem, when I was singing these, when I was singing them in public places, it was somewhere between 30 and 50. And that's the same pitch as I put them in that book.
Yeah.
But if I was to try to sing those things at that pitch, I would just get up a certain distance and then the top 4 notes would just vanish. I couldn't do it at all. So I have since then, this idea that you made like a recording of them, they have now come down considerably. What used to be in D is way now down in B flat. But I don't care what tune, what key somebody else sings in. Doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the Old Man River wouldn't sound right done by a soprano. So there are
No,
certain
it sounded a bit
songs.
odd. It sounded good, yeah.
Good. You must have met a few characters in the way of putting your collection together. Would there be some of them who are more willing than others to hand over their song? I remember a story that your brother Manus told me about your dad getting a phone call from somebody saying, Sean, would you come and collect this song, as if it was all wrapped up in tissue paper, waiting to be taken. So do you have to prize them out of some people's hands, or
Some people are very, very, I would say, some people are very bad about their songs. If my brother Colin was to sing The Maid of Balladoo, I wouldn't hit him. Because that just shows what a nice man I am. But I sing The Maid of Balladoo, that's my song. Go sing you something else, why don't you sing The Flower of My Heart, that's your song. Well, let's, I don't know. Some people are very, very bad about them and they would sulk for weeks.
Well, that's the thing. Is it possible or right to be proprietorial about a folk song that's out of or has never had a copyright? For instance, has anybody else got any business singing Arthur McBride after
No,
Paul
I
Grady
think
did it?
anybody would be entitled to say, now wait a minute, Arthur McBride. Now I heard that sung by, I can't remember who it was, but it was sung right. That was a lovely singing, and it's a pity about you trying it,
Okay, but on the other hand, if we're going to encourage our young people to ever get involved and to carry on this tradition, we have to get them all up and singing. That must be one of the key ways of preserving a collection such as you have amassed. How do we get young people finding a value in this and singing?
I think if you get a young person, a comparatively young person, anybody who's less than 80, singing a song, they've got what they do is they actually listen. And then they say, no, that can't be, that's not. Now this is what happened to me. There's a song about a patching still. And I have been singing for years because the way the man sang it that I heard singing was Joe Float Brannigan. And he says, her checks has gained her credit in many a foreign shore. So I was always singing, and her checks has gained her credit upon many. And then a young lady from around Hilltown says, not at all, it can't be her. It's the blackboard. He should be saying her chicks. Well, of course I should have been saying chicks. And please God, I will sing chicks if I remember, Yeah. But a young person who's just interested will take it from you. They won't ask for permission. They just get, now that's a song I would like to sing.
Absolutely. And is it all right for them to muck about with them and change them, do you think?
And change. Also, if the note's too high, take it down a bit. Yeah. And if you don't understand the word, change it.
Because things become a bit anachronistic. I'm thinking again of that song you mentioned, The Maid of Balladoo. I mean, the second verse, I think, has probably the worst pick-up lines in the world. Are you Aurora? Or
Oh,
Flo
God,
the Queen of May? Or
Flo
is
the
this
Queen,
a
yeah,
Fair
yeah.
Helen that appears in the
Yes,
view?
great stuff, great stuff.
Yeah.
But there was an awful lot of songs which had Aurora and
Classical
all these
references.
wonderful heroes from Greek. Nobody has done Greek mythology for about 150 years, so most of it doesn't mean anything. So you have to put in, I suppose, some of the modern pop singers, you this one or that one. I don't know what you do.
I mean, most traditional instrument players will have a slight variation of a tune themselves, and nobody ever complains about it. But when they get together, there's a homogeneity about it. But the singer, I think, has fair leeway to drop verses and
yes, and put in an extra verse and fix the words if they don't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, has the 21st century and the evolution of the attention span to basically zero put paid to the long ballad, do you think?
I think probably. But I mean, if you're in the company of a good singer, and he decides he's going to sing something with 14 verses, you listen. Because it's a different kind of an experience, you know.
That's true.
These days, the modern pop song will give you 1.5 lines. They shout it a bit louder and say it a bit quieter, but it's only 1.5 lines altogether. There's no story to it, you know. I love you, baby, baby. I love you, baby. I love you, baby. You know.
Yeah. So it's to the singer. I know that a friend of mine talked about a guy who visited their house when he was young and said this guy had the most fantastic trove of stories, but he couldn't tell any of them. So a good singer, you'll forgive them if they're doing reading an entire tome of 11 or 12 verses. Your great brother Sean Og, if he returned and said, "Yeah, look, Gilbert Dalton are going to reprint your volume," what changes would you make in the collection you have? Because it was from the early 80s.
Yeah, around about then, yeah. Well, what I would do is put it on better paper. It's in what's called perfect binding. Now, why they thought that the word perfect was good for binding, they put a bit of glue at the back, set the edge of the paper on, but then when you've opened the book twice, it falls apart. They're the most fallable apart books in the world. I would ask them to change that.
Right. Well, but the contents you'd keep as they
The
are.
contents are gorgeous. Great. Great.
So they should have the imprimatur
Yes, you should
statement
really.
on the front of it.
You should have at least a bishop to sign it.
Now, you're one of a large clan who all contribute to the preservation of the folk song. Was it your father who started the ball rolling, or does it go back a wee bit further?
Well, it goes back at least to my grandfather, who sang. I remember him singing the Dark-Eyed Gypsies and the Flower Maharali. He sang the Flower Maharali, and that's in that collection now. So, oh yeah, it went back that far. Now, where he got them, I do not know, but I know that's where I got them.
Yeah. Would it be controversial to suggest that maybe your mother was as good a raconteur as your dad?
What would be totally uncontroversial was that if my mother was in the room when I was singing, if I forgot the words of any song anywhere, and then it came, whereupon you always with the word, and Nora does the same job. I mean, she's better than a book, because she remembers what the next verse is going to be.
Right. Yeah. But everyone should have one.
Everybody should have, really, because all my consciousness resides in the Mississippi.
You're a well-travelled man, and you've spent considerable time in Nigeria, in particular in your younger days. They now have a Guinness factory there. Did your music travel as well as the pint travelled to Nigeria? Did you sing them when you're out there?
Well, I did, but it was a bit. The kind of singing that I was doing wasn't that I had done at home. Didn't fit as well as the music that they had themselves. I remember now, I came round the corner of the school one day, and there was a cement mixer there. The boys were building a new wing, and the cement mixer was going, and the boys were dancing to a cement mixer. Now, I do not think that you can dance to an Irish tune the way you can dance to a cement mixer. There's a difference between a jig and a cement mixer.
There certainly is. Yeah. But there could be money in that as
there could be. We could start a wee group with a cement mixer.
But if it came to folk songs, was there anything in common, do you think, with the Nigerians and the
They didn't have that big long story.
Yeah.
That you know, that ballady thing where you go on and on and on for miles describing how she wore her earrings and how long her hair was.
Yeah.
I didn't bother with that.
Somebody more likely to use a metaphor for something like the sun and the moon or creation stories.
To tell you the truth, my Hausa, which is the big language of northern Nigeria, was limited to more or less to order a beer and say no more thanks. Whereas the local people spoke Kaji, and then further down the road it was Katab. There were umpteen languages, and that was the thing about everybody there spoke at least 5 languages.
Well,
I didn't.
Of course, when we take things back home, Oriel had a very specific Irish, we call it patois, or what would we call it? Its own specific vocabulary. Or,
Yeah.
What about the music? Do you think there's been anything specific about the music of Oriel? The closeness to the Pale and so on. Is there more of an English influence, do you think, in the music of Oriel?
I wouldn't think that. I think the music, when you listen to them, you'll find some are very, very of an English persuasion, and the other ones are very, very Gaelic. There's these long, complicated lines. When the true sons of Erin their green banners burn, they all were preparing for Castle Wellington. That shape, you'd never get that in an English song. Yeah. But then there are other songs, like the Bright Orange Heroes of Cumber, which do not have an English run to them. Yeah. They have a kind of a shared Irish mixed with English to them.
So in the way so many of the Irish songs then echo the old Irish poetry with the internal rhymes in the line, would you find that the Orange songs have taken that from the Irish?
They have, and they just turn the inside rhymes turn up, and you say that sounds odd. That it should be. You'd expect a loyalist song. Theoretically, a loyalist song should be truly British. Mm-hmm. It isn't. Right. It's truly Irish British. It's like the what do you call that? The Belfast Agreement. You can be British, you can be Irish, you can be both at the same time. Give me a head pace.
Right, now you must have, from not just from your collection but from all the songs you've learned, you must have a favourite song. Like children, are some of them easier to love than others?
Oh, I think my favourite song of all would be the Ye gods assist my poor wearied notion, and inspired muses lend me your hand to sing. Ye gods assist my poor wearied notion, you inspired muses lend me your hand. You know, when you've got that much, you're in for a good session. That is going to be a good song.
Yeah, it sort of sets a standard, doesn't it?
It's Al Arbo. That's what it's
Al Arbo, of course, yeah.
And funny enough, that was used by the BBC to introduce a series of programs by my father. Before he even heard the song, it was used, played on the clarinet. Absolutely gorgeous. It's a good tune, as a tune, gorgeous.
Yeah, there is that it's not an affectation, it's just a little way that we have in the Irish song of those similar 3 notes at the end of a line. There must be a name for that, yeah.
There's a final 3 tonics, or for
all
that
on
matter,
the same note.
La. It's great. Yeah. It's the way, but you nearly always in the English ones, Tido, Redo, the 3 notes at the end. They're guaranteed Irish, it says.
What's your feeling on accompanying or unaccompanying? Does somebody with a guitar limit the singer because you're having to compromise in some way, or are you best just having your own free flow when you're singing?
Well, from my point of view, it's much better. If somebody's going bump, chink, chink, bump, chink, chink, you're going to go bump, chink, chink, whether you even mean it or not. Now listen, back to that song. Ye gods assist me. You can't even count 1, 2. How many beats in that bar? When you come down to write it down, you have to make up your mind. Okay, it's 4/4, so I'll squeeze that a bit in and I'll drag that a bit out. But you're telling lies.
You are.
The song was not written on the page, and it's not supposed to fit on the page. And if you sing it as if stuck on the page, all right, enjoy yourself. But you're not doing the song.
There's so many affectations, again, for want of a better word, that people sometimes put into the music. If we liken it to the pop music as it went along, from your Buddy Holly went, and at the moment, lady singers in particular have this warbling that they have in the throat. Things that got crept into the Irish music as well. There was an unnecessary way of nasalizing things. Have you ever heard that in songs?
Yeah. It's if you hear a singer, if you hear a good singer, you're inclined to sing it like that. And if he's a bit nasal, you'll be a bit nasal. Yeah. And if he sings it down his throat, you'll go down there too. There's more going on in a song than a set of notes and set of words. There's a whole performance about it. Even though the singer doesn't let on he's doing a performance, he is. He's sort of, if you watch him, he's gone out of himself. He's
absolutely. It's funny, the advice I give to young singers and to all the theatrical crowds that I'm working with is out of Hamlet. Whenever Claudius is kneeling down, trying to pray and to genuinely atone for his sins, and Hamlet says, I could kill this guy now, and he says, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below, words without thoughts never to heaven go. And it's the same with your acting or your singing.
That's it.
You have to be in the moment. You've got a magnificent collection, and I know it's only a smattering of what you have. How do we best preserve a collection and pass it on? And again, this idea of getting people singing, what's the best way? I mean, how can we preserve Cathal Ó Baoill's collection into the future, apart from putting it on a dusty shelf?
Well, I can tell you something that is stronger than putting on a dusty shelf. I was singing to my family at dinner. I was just singing because I wanted to sing. And my singing career came to a sudden stop because one of my children on the right hand side, I will not name the young lady, who said, whine, whine, whine. She was only expressing her feeling for her father's singing. That stopped me. If your audience wishes to hear, you'll continue to sing. If your audience says whine, 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 you will not sing. And that stopped it.
So it's more than being a singer, it's an ability to hold the room when you're singing.
Yes. And if you're trying to hold the room when the room is having its dinner and it wants to talk about something else, then you shouldn't be singing.
Yeah, no business.
Very rude of her to have said whine, whine, whine. Nevertheless, by the time I grew up, yes.
Cathal Ó Baoill, it's been a delight talking to you today, and now we're going to hear a few of your songs.
Good.
Thank you again.
Great crack.